wrap up Miami's spring season and, of course, talk about a big addition to the defensive line for 2022 right here at the Voice of College Football. Comment, leave your questions, and, of course, contribute. There's the wholesome one. He's ready to go, ready to roll, and give us his take, of course. Wholesome one.
What's up? Hey, Mark, how you doing today? Hashtag Live Squad, how y'all doing today, man? We got a couple people in the chat already, ready to talk some Miami football. We got a recent commit. Spring ball just came to a conclusion. I think we got a lot to talk about today, Mark.
West Virginia defensive lineman AKHEEM MESIDOR turned in 2 pretty productive seasons with the Mountaineers, and he is now headed to Miami.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, we had the same conversation. And, I was very understanding as far as funny part is I talk about the fact that we should probably take our time and boom, look, 5 stars hit the transfer portal. Now, although Mims decided to go back to UGA, I felt as though with our scholarship rotation, we should give it a little bit. Okay. And you look at MESIDOR, of course, he was on an official visit with his teammate who was already a transfer and Porter Jr., transfer cornerback, defensive back to the University of Miami. Coach Adai spent time at West Virginia as soon as 2 years ago. He was at UGA last season, but the year before that, for 4 or 5 seasons, he was at West Virginia and built a pretty solid defensive back core, at least for West Virginia standards, in the Big 12. So he has relationships with a couple of those guys. And Mark, I'm going to tell you this, more and more young men will see the opportunity to come and be a part of what the University of Miami wants to be. And that's great. And a lot of people are going to want to be a part of this and step into it and be a part of the new regime. So I don't think this will be the last time we talk about a commitment from a previous institution. And I don't think that last week's exit of Cody Brown and Tyreek Austin-Cave will be the last time we talk about the exit of current Miami Hurricanes finding love elsewhere and finding a new girlfriend, because this one is ready to start being with some big ballers, and I think that's where we're going to go.
We talked about it the last couple of weeks with MESIDOR and the speculation. Just one more go around on this. Have you had a chance to dissect his tape?
Absolutely. You talk about a 6'3", 250-pound young man who plays with his hands. Now, he's still learning the game, similar to the UCLA outside linebacker edge rusher that Miami is bringing in. But with MESIDOR, we're bringing him in to be a 3-technique defensive tackle. Okay, we are going to be getting after the quarterback from the 3-technique and off of the edge. Soon, and very soon, we are going to see the king. All right, no. Soon, we're going to be able to get in some we're going to get into some 1-technique and some nose guard transfers that Miami is sending offers at and going after, because that seemed to be the big issue at Miami, is we haven't had a true 1-technique to hold it down to allow guys like a Harrison Hunt or Leonard Taylor or even Nestor Silvera to a certain extent to be able, Lunchestein, the new USC transfer, to be able to get around the corner and attack the shoulders of guards and defeat hands and kind of play free to a certain extent at their 3-technique position, since Kendrick Norton did it for R.J. McIntosh and did it for our middle linebacker, keeping guards and centers off of our middle linebacker. Okay, so I love what MESIDOR brings to the table. I'm very excited about him. And the biggest thing, Mark, is that you want to create quality depth. A lot of people feel like it's all about your 22s. I've said this on your channel for years. The 11 on defense, the 11 on offense. It's not about the 22 total. It's about the 22 on each side. So you're 44. How deep can you go with quality elite talent? Okay. Chase Young was only a year behind Nick Bosa. You didn't know who Chase Young was until the Bosa brothers were completely out of the door. Okay. Going 3rd overall and 4th overall and kicking butt in the National Football League. All right. That's how these elite programs do things. Now, Alabama's a little different. It's more about the A and, the Nick Sabanism and like the number on the side of the helmets as opposed to the player themselves, because it feels more like, oh, yeah, well, the strong side 3 technique at Bama is always going to be an ass kicker. The middle linebacker is always going to be a flyer. The free safety is always going to be an All-American. Irregardless of whom the name is attached to, they'll always be great. Some programs do it to where they kind of spotlight and circle around the specific players, like a Clemson. You can rile off their best players because they really focus in on their personalities and who they are, whether it be with their long hair or Deshaun Watson's elite playmaking ability, or Hunter Renfrow just showing up at these big moments, or Trevor Lawrence winning big games as a freshman and going to the national championship. So I think Miami is working to become something similar to that, where we want to be able to plug and play, but we also want to give spotlight to our players and show love and shine a spotlight on those guys and spotlight their personality. So we're doing that with a couple of our guys, and the newest one is going to be MESIDOR, transferring from West Virginia. I'm really excited about what he could bring to the table, but more importantly, that he can come in and really put the pressure on a Harrison Hunt or a Leonard Taylor or a Lutcher Steiner, where they don't feel like they just walk into these starting positions, because you're going to get tired. You're going to have times where we need to pull you off the field for certain packages. And we don't want to go from like an A- down to a C+ at best when we start to drop into our depth.
And now the talk is surrounding UCLA linebacker Caleb Johnson. I just got done recording a segment with Texas, and he's down
They
to
feel
a short list
confident.
of Miami and Texas.
They feel pretty confident, as they should. Man. These programs are doing well. I don't know. I guess I would have to ask you. You're a bipartisan party. Which program do you see a little higher than the other right now?
In terms of getting Caleb Johnson, or which program do I
as
just
a program period? Which you think is higher?
Miami's a better football team.
Yeah. When they struggled last year, and I felt, well, they're going to have to really flip a lot of stuff. And some people were really nervous. They asked me on my channel, Mark Wholesome, do you see Texas last year? They get Sarkisian, they get this really nice. They have a great staff. They got a great staff there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I echo the same sentiment. All right, it's going to take time to get the laziness and the mediocrity out of the DNA of a program. Now, I don't see us going 5-7 and just missing the playoffs and losing to Kansas. Like, I don't see us losing to Duke. I'm sorry, I don't see it happen. It's happened, but I don't see us that happening. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of growth to do, and I'll get into that when we talk about the spring in a little bit here. But I agree. I think Miami's a little bit ahead of Texas right now. But I would not be surprised if Mr. Johnson, the young man, chose Texas. Hey, blessings be unto him. If he comes to Miami, blessings be unto him. I'm really excited for these young men to have power in their hands, because me and you have studied. You studied this game longer than I've been alive. But we have examples of young men that maybe went to a UCLA and they're from Georgia. They want to go home. The coach blocks them from being able to go to certain schools. They have to go down to the FCS or D2 or D3. Now, the power is in the hands of these young men. They can reach out and communicate with other coaches. We'll see if they get chances to blossom and to grow. And yes, I would love to have them on our roster. I don't care if they call us Transfer Portal U, like they did in 2020, when we got Bubba Bolden and defensive tackle from UCLA. Back then, we got Jalen Phillips and a whole bunch of guys. Derek King, exactly. We had a big transfer in.
The Houston offensive lineman.
Jared Williams. Not Jared. Jared was the backup quarterback that left, who's still trying to find a home right now, FYI. And that helped us get to 3-4. And that was under the previous regime. So there's a lot of it's got a smile stuck on my face. Right? I'm happy. I'm happy because, man, well, I probably won't be too happy once we start talking about the spring. the final spring practice. I was thoroughly disappointed in that. But anyway, I'm happy about this situation now because recruiting is fun when you actually got a chance at the elite prospects. It's a lot more fun and you're happy about your experience when you have a chance.
Falcon Rex, we hit the under. Is Mark starting before 8:10? Let's see. We started 11 minutes ago. It was 8:06. So there you go. All right. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Tim as well. Gary with a lot of information in the chat. Falcon Rex, appreciate you being here and thank you for the super sticker. All right. And also keep in mind, when I look at Texas and I look at Miami, if you start at the quarterback position, Texas has a lot of talent there, but a lot of uncertainty. Texas fans and everybody wants Quinn Ewers to win the job, the #1 rated passer in the country, but he's never thrown a pass. And we know what we've got with TVD. We know what he is. We know what he's shown against big opponents. Hudson Card was the guy that won the job last year, but then he lost the job midseason. And he's the other competitor for that Texas quarterback position.
You bring that up, Mark. I really think they should have just stuck with Hudson, man. I know it was cool to go to the freshman, but if he beat him out fairly, and then he's just having a tough stretch there, why not surround him with the positive energy to get him to have that confidence, as opposed to have the freshman and split the team down the middle and have the freshman hot on his heels, man. I mean, it might work out for the young men in the future, but I felt like that was a little messed up how the situation would happen. I'm not a Texas fan. I'm not there. I do not cover the team. And Coach Sarkisian and his staff watched him practice, and he made his decision, which they will have to live with. But from somebody watching on the outside looking in, I felt like they should have stuck with Hudson, man. I didn't see him have that much of a drop off to be thrown to the wayside like that.
Falcon Rex, appreciate that. Thank you so much. H1H, yes, he's in the house. He makes this thing go. You had a chance to see Caleb Johnson.
Yes.
On tape.
Yes. The big film that I watched was, of course, the Oregon game. I watched the LSU game. Remember, they had that call. A lot of people didn't think about it, don't remember this, but before Coach Ed O was fired, LSU went on over to UCLA.
Sure.
And he used the term referring to one of those fans that I will not re-utter because it's derogatory. But he got caught on camera, talking to a fan about a blue shirt, thinking that the Pac-12 is soft, and think about people in California and that side of whatever is soft. And, I think he got a real a real update to let you know, brother. Watch your mouth if you can't back it up, man. Watch your mouth if you can't back it up, because they whoop their ass. And I like LSU, but if you're gonna come out there and doing that kind of stuff, man, you better be prepared for the equal amount of level of smoke. And he didn't get it done. But again, Caleb Johnson, he against that SEC front, against those SEC backs, H-backs, tight ends, he did not look out of sorts. Okay, played very aggressive, came downhill, had 12 tackles, 1.5 TFLs, and a sack in that game. He was flying around. Guy that I would love to have at Miami. Can't wait to see what his decision is. I think that he would be a great addition to our linebacker room. Unfortunately, I think due to the transfers that will be coming in, we will lose a couple of guys who have currently loved the University of Miami and really leaned into being Miami Hurricanes and been there for us. But it was under a previous regime. And this regime does not owe anyone on this team anything. You have to go out there and earn it. And I said it then, and I will say it again now. A lot of these young men did not separate themselves this spring. So what does that mean? Coach Cristobal and his staff will go bring in the talent, and then you will either be forced to make a decision on your own, or when you get battled, you'll sit on a bench and just sit there for 2 or 3 years while we take off. So I hope that these young men understand. Caleb is He's dynamic. He's aggressive. He's downhill. Slightly good in coverage, not like elite, but enough for 2022 style of ball. Unlike the current guys we have on our roster, which feel like they're more like 09, 08 kind of players that were really good in that era because, teams were still running under center, one back, and things of that nature. Now, I would say about 72% of all of Division I teams are spread-based teams. And I would go as high as 90 use spread more than they do under center. Whether that be a pistol, whether that be a true shotgun, okay, even at the FCS level, there are a lot of teams that are way more spread and open and 11 personnel as opposed to 12 or 21. Okay, you usually only have one back and one tight end, or 10 personnel where it's one back, no tight end, 4 wide. Okay, creating mismatches against linebackers and strong and free safeties is what offensive coordinators love to do in this game. And a lot of them do it in the ACC Coastal and in college football as a whole. So bringing in a young man like Mr. Johnson, I think he can play that role and be one of the better inside linebackers in the ACC Coastal and maybe even the ACC. Again, if he does choose the University of Miami. If he goes to the University of Texas, do your thing. God bless, stay healthy, kick some butt. But I would love if he were to come to Miami.
And we can keep in mind that he originally committed to Texas before he left and went to UCLA.
Right.
Also, I watched quite a bit of UCLA football, so I've seen him play. Now, I wasn't focused on him. I didn't necessarily, again, I'm just talking about watching games, not going back and watching tape on players. So nothing really stood out. Just looking at the stats, I wonder if they utilized him differently this past season. So he had the same number of tackles in both seasons, 45 and 44, but he had 7 tackles for loss and 5.5 sacks the previous season, and he had no plays behind the line of scrimmage. So you would think, just based on that, it would be unlikely that he would make that many plays behind the line of scrimmage, 5.5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss, and not be utilized differently than he was not making plays behind the line of scrimmage.
That's an interesting take there, Mark. I don't know. I do know that they were transitioning from a traditional 3-4 to more of a 3-3-5 stack, which means your linebackers are 5-by-7 on each side, and you have a 0 technique or shade, depending on your strength. You got 2-5 techniques. So that's what they were running this year because I was scouting the defensive end / edge rusher that came over from there to Miami. And he wore number 45 there. He was used all over. I saw him stand up, saw a hand in the dirt. I saw some 3-tape. He was used all over the football field and had him not really able to settle into a position and get comfortable. But I saw why he was used in that way because he was a dynamic player. So I would not be surprised if the same thing didn't happen with 40. If he wasn't playing some Mike, some Will, some Sam, just all over the place in that scheme.
Okay. Third Degree 7. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much for that. Saying Falcon Rex is rich, LMAO. But hey, thank you so much for the contribution. Appreciate that, man. And everybody keep in mind, whether you contribute in this way or not, you can always hit the like button. So please hit the like button. And as Devontae says right here, please press the like button and share the video. So you can grab the link. You can share it out on social media. Let people know that we're here. When we've got typically 150 to 200 people in here each and every Thursday night with a Wholesome One, just think what would happen if you all grabbed 2, 3, 4 people. And we build up the audience. Head on over to the Wholesome One's channel right here on YouTube as well. Wholesome One Holloway right here on YouTube. It is easy to find. All right. I guess we will get to the, you know what, I wanted to mention briefly because it was mentioned in the chat a number of times. Yes, the Arizona State linebacker who was a freshman last year entered the portal. One, bless you, one Eric Gentry. Played 10 games last season. Again, just a freshman, 45 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and a sack. We will see what his decision is. I don't know his background in regards to.
I'm going to tell you this now, Mark. I like it. I like him. Now, I'm
Oh,
usually not a negative person by nature. I'm a happy-go-lucky, jolly guy. But I really like his film because he reminds me of Cyrus Moss. He's 6'6", he's 205, still a little light in the behind. But what that could do is hold off Cyrus Moss for a mango season, or could just hold him off for a little less snaps. All right. Miami offered as soon as he put out there that he's leaving. Dynamic first step, 2-point stance guy, 3-4 outside linebacker, edge rusher guy. Okay, dynamic first step off that ball. I mean, flies. Okay, but again, he's what we call in the recruiting a speed guy. Okay, he's a speed edge rusher. What that means is he's not going down the middle of anybody. Okay, and he lived off the fact that he could just fly around that corner, dip rip, and sack the quarterback, and no one could touch him because he could fly that fast. Now, is that a bad thing? No, but it is the truth. So therefore, when he gets to this level, he gets to the collegiate level, and again, ACC, Coastal have some solid offensive lines. All right, he's going to have to learn how to be able to get in that weight room, and we need him to be 225 or higher. Again, that's not just at Miami. If we want to contribute at the collegiate level moving forward, we cannot just fly around the corner like that. All right, because these offensive tackles are they're 3 or 4 star prospect for the most part. Also, if we're talking about Power 5 level, okay, there is interest on both sides, but as a weak side edge rusher and situational ball, he could be a John Garvin, Mark. When we come in, he snaps that ball, swoop, come around the corner, strip sack, and then we don't see him again for the rest of the game. He came in and did his job. He got after the quarterback. He flew off that ball. That offensive tackle had been playing against Cyrus Moss, playing against Tafari Harvey or Chance Williams or all these other players all game long, and then this young man just flies right past him with fresh legs. It's a little unfair, similar to what John Garvin did against Virginia Tech, and then 7 days later against Notre Dame, where the 11th overall pick at left tackle, who's now playing right tackle for the 49ers, John Garvin ate his lunch, just flew right past him, strip sack. And again, if you understand O-line, D-line, it just wasn't fair. John Garvin was on the sideline drinking water, Gatorade, and big chilling. This guy was banging heads all game. He just would come in and do one play and didn't make his night. So, and that's the beautiful part. It's a part of the game. It's what you bring to the table. Hopefully, he continues to kick butt while doing it.
As soon as you started to describe the Arizona State player Eric Gentry, I instantly thought of Bruce Irvin, who was a defensive end at West Virginia. Back about 10, 11 years ago, and then went to the Seahawks and is wrapped up. I just wanted to check out the total: 52 sacks at various places in the NFL, but he was drafted by the Seahawks. And
first round too.
Yes. That's who I thought of, because that's what he was. He was just a straight line. Yep. I can run right by you guy.
And then he was like, what, maybe 6'2.5", 6'3", 215. He was really lighting the behind, had the long locks hanging out the back of his helmet, wore number 11. And I remember watching the draft when I was like, I look over at my dad, I'm like, who? West Virginia? And then I started watching his highlights. I was like, oh, that's why. He just goes after the quarterback. Yeah.
And I apologize for not asking you about Eric Gentry. I just thought you didn't have time to look at the tape, and I didn't want to put you on the spot. But you're already all over it.
Yeah, Mark. I love, O-line, D-line is a little different for me. And like I said, as we're about to get into with the spring, a couple people were a little unhappy with me, my review on Monday. They deemed it a little negative because there were some things that I had to say that some people weren't too happy about, but we will get to it. Uh-oh, Marky got caught again not having the Canes helmet.
Oh, did somebody call me on that? I looked and I thought, yeah, that's what it is. But I didn't make the switch on the air. All right. There you go. There you go. It could have been somebody else. It was Texas sitting there. There was a theme working there.
Well, at least it wasn't Notre Dame.
Okay. I was thinking of somebody else that's actually sitting right behind there.
Oh, that's where it should be, right back there.
You can't see it. All right, man. Saturday.
Where do you want me to go? Because if I just take off, it's not going to be good. And I won't shut up for 40 minutes. Give me a guide me in the direction you want me to go.
Well, I got to say, when we see real football on Saturdays, by the time we get here on Thursdays, it's still fresh in my mind, and I can point out because it's more, I don't know, real and situational, and I can put plays in my mind and situations, but watching practice, basically, it just doesn't. You know, I thought, what comes to mind? I thought, of course, Henry Parrish got a lot of work early. I thought Thad Franklin made some plays and looked decent running the football. I thought that a number of guys dropped passes. I thought Tyler Van Dyke. I heard good reviews about Van Dyke. Now, I'm not concerned, so it doesn't really matter what he showed out there. He's proven in real games what he can do, but I thought he missed a lot of throws early, and then he threw a beautiful ball on a, I don't know what that was because I just saw the pass, so I don't know what the route was. It might have been a deep crossing route from right to left sideline, and he took it right over to the defender, and it was dropped. I think it was Jacoby George, I think, and another one on the right sideline that was dropped. That was a deep throw.
Yeah, that was the story of the day.
Yeah. So let's start with wide receiver play because everybody noticed that.
Dude. All right. Gotta collect my thoughts here. It was a bad day for the wide receivers and the quarterbacks to have a bad practice. That's the best way I will start out. Okay. A lot of drop passes, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of missed ball placement that I believe will work for the betterment of the Miami Hurricanes moving forward. Now, why would you say that? Usually what happens in between February to July, you see those products come out in September through the next December, right? What I'm saying is when young men have these overly great springs and amazing spring games and the oohs and ahs, they go into training camp feeling like big chest. I got it. I'm the man. I had the crowd going ooh and ah at the spring game. I got this. I'm dominant. I believe these young men, number one, the offensive coordinator is also the wide receivers coach. So he's going to take what happened on Saturday very personally, that his guys and what his guys did is the talk of the spring game. Okay. Number two, this is, again, a practice. It was a public practice that 18 plus thousand people had the ability to see the product of the University of Miami. Right now, I again do not think that these young men, a lot of them, will be on the roster and that this team will look anything like it did right now, April 21st, as it will July, June, as soon as June, July, August of 2022. The wide receivers in particular, mixed with what was going on with our quarterbacks, all three quarterbacks, Curry, Jake, who had a really good practice, and TVD. We were off. Bad ball placement, and when the ball placement was good, we had some really rough drops. From some people we don't expect drops from, Keyshawn, Xavier, Restrepo, Frank Latson. I mean, we had some uncharacteristic and characteristic drops. The beautiful part is, Mark, that's something that you can coach. That's something that you can fix. It's a focus issue. Okay, ball placement is technique and focus. Bringing that ball in is technique and focus. It's a little different if a young man just can't get off blocks because he just isn't good. It's different if a young man can't create separation because he's not fast. A young man having a defensive back beat and the corner is trailing and trying to catch up, and the QB puts it a little bit too far outside, and the wide receiver still tries to go out to try to make their quarterback look right because that's their job. When the ball is in the air, it's your ball, and you happen to drop it. Now, the coaches would understand, hey, that ball wasn't thrown right. All right. The wide receiver will understand the ball wasn't thrown right. But it's not their job to get up and go, what you doing? Nope. They make sure they get up, head down, shake your head a little bit, hustle to the huddle, and let's do it over again. You was trying to say something, Mark?
No, sir. No,
Okay,
you had froze, and I was about to.
Oh, okay. My bad.
No.
So it's little intricacies like that. Okay. Now, when you break down the film, you see those little things. You see TBD not getting the shoulders right before he lets it fly, and making sure his feet aren't in the right place as we're throwing the ball. Okay. But again, my mind works that it's a little different, So with the wide receivers, you see them being drifted out a little bit because they're not as strong. The quarterback's a little stronger. So he's pressing and pushing you because the sideline is his friend. Okay, it ain't PI if you go out of bounds. Now, if I deliberately push you out, right, that's different. But if I'm looking for the ball too, and as I'm drifting, you go out also, that ain't PI. Okay. Now, there were times where the ball was put in a great position and the wide receivers just dropped it. I'm not here to make excuses for anyone. What I am here to say is this. When it came to what the wide receivers brought to the table, when it comes to TBD, to Curry, and Jake Garcia being a little off, I believe if we were to grade them off of the entire practice and all of spring ball, which a lot of us were not able to see, we would understand that they had a bad practice, and it was a bad day to have a bad practice in front of all those cameras and in front of all those people. To me, I'm not necessarily extremely worried. Again, I believe that the deficiencies are something that we can fix and something that we can coach up, something that we can work on. Okay, those wide receivers were wide. I mean, some of the route combinations, they were wide open. And either the quarterback didn't do their job and put it in a place where they can catch it, or the wide receiver didn't bring it in. All right. Again, it's not like it was with maybe a Wiggins and a Pope to where it was like 2 years of this. It's one day, in my opinion. Okay. For overall, I think Jake Garcia had the best day out of everybody. He looked better than TBD. And Curry has some ways to go. And that's all right, man. That's okay. The beautiful part is he has two really good quarterbacks in front of him. I'm not saying Curry is completely out the battle. Maybe he does get better over the summer with his personal training, and he can come and really win second quarterback. I'm not willing to just give that to Jake Garcia. But if we were to take this practice, in which was public, that was video, that was filmed, and all those people were there, Jake Garcia looked like the better QB. Not saying that there's a QB controversy and that Jake Garcia should start over TBD and Curry should transfer. I'm not saying any of that. But based on the film that I reviewed and based on what we were able to watch, Miami is in good hands with Jake Garcia. And secondly, Miami needs a couple of wide receivers to take that next step. And it's not just about chirping about it. It's not being a leader because you jump in the front of the line. It's not being a leader because you're the tough slot receiver that gets hit over the middle. No, we need to be able to make plays based on what we do when the games are played. Okay, and that's coming up here in about 3 or 4 months here. So we'll get a chance to see if all this leadership talk and all of this rah talk is going to equate to some big playability on Saturdays.
Question for you, Wholesome One, concerning the quarterback position and your evaluation and how you would handle this. And it's not an easy evaluation or an easy question I'm going to give here. if you're talking about Drew Brees or Tom Brady, they could have every pass hit the ground in August camp and nobody's going to question, they still get the game one start. But you got TVD, 25 TDs, 6 picks. We could go on and on about what he did. I saw a stat during the spring game that showed he's the first quarterback since Joe Burrow in 19 to throw, I think, 6 consecutive games of 350 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he did it against NC State, Pitt, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, Jake Garcia looked better in this one practice. And again, it's a practice. It's one of
Absolutely.
15. Just happens to be on TV. It's no more important than the other ones. But 15 times they hit the field, and we have no idea. But hypothetically, if you're in a situation where there's a quarterback who has proven themselves, but not, again, over the course of 10 years, over the course of 8 games, and then you've got another quarterback who, from a talent perspective, they're pretty much equals, correct? If anything, Garcia was rated higher.
Yeah. If we were to just take off of what they did in high school, you could say, again, according to 247 and stuff like that,
yeah.
You would say that Jake is a little higher. Now, based on collegiate production and what we've seen on Saturdays, TBD is a lot higher.
If there was an August camp between 2 quarterbacks and one hit the resume of a TVD and the other one was a Jake Garcia, how much would that second quarterback have to outplay the first quarterback to get the starting job in week 1? Or is there just no way he's going to be able to win the starting job because of what TVD did during regular season games?
The fan in me would say, nope, you got a QB1. That's it. Shut it down and go. The coach in me understands that there is no job that isn't worth battling. Okay. Now, what I mean by that, to answer your question, Jake Garcia would have to eat up on second and third team. Because what happens is, Mark, if you see certain players like, hey, he might be turning the corner. Let's give him some first team reps and see what he does. Now, usually you do first team O against second team D, second team D against back and forth. Okay, so if the first team O goes out there, TBD, and he's going to use the second team D, and let's say, for example, it's not up to par, then Jake goes out there with the second team players against the first team, and he is picking them apart. I mean, eat them up. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, okay. Mental note. He comes in, he's prepared, he does the same thing the next day. The same thing day 3. Now the conversations are going to start. Murmurs, whispers, chirps. What's going on here? Then when we start doing 1v1s, because that's what you start to do a little closer, okay? A little closer to the first game. You start to get those 1v1s, okay? We're starting to really get after it in training camp. Bodies are hurting. The leaders really have to pull up because it hurts. You don't want to be there. You're drained. It's hot. You're angry. Somebody even walk by you. You're like, man, I'll punch you in the face. You get real angry. Okay, and if Jake is still doing that, let's say, for example, a second team quarterback, period, because I know how our fan base is still doing well. And that second quarterback goes out there against the ones and takes off. That's where the conversation has to be had about, especially if the presumed QB1 is starting to decline or is starting to have off the field issues, starting to feel like they already made it, really nonchalant, whatever. What are you going to do? Start the other guy? You start to get those kind of attitudes, and then they really go separate from one another. The team starts to surround the second quarterback, and people are playing hard for that second quarterback. Then that's what happens. I'll give you an example. Malik Rozier and N'Kosi Perry. The team and the fan base and a bunch of people were for N'Kosi. But Coach Mark went with Malik, even though everyone on the team had more confidence in N'Kosi Perry and what he brought to the table. And eventually, one took over the other. As soon as he made a mistake, because Coach Rick didn't like him anyway. So as soon as he made a mistake, he yanked him. And the season kind of was a wash after he yanked him against a really subpar Virginia team off after making 1 or 2 bad mistakes, as opposed to sticking with him and saying, all right, we'll go to the run game until you can cook back up. So again, because I know the video is going to be cut up. And I know the title is going to be clickbait. So I'm going to say this again. Tyler Van Dyke is our starting quarterback today. And I think going through training camp and into the very first game against the illustrious Bethune-Cookman University, my parents' alma mater, that he will be our quarterback. I was answering a question about how the second quarterback can overtake the first quarterback. Okay, I gotta say it. I have to say it, Mark. It's not against you. I've bled this orange and green for 25 years, and I know this fan base. And I know the comment section is gonna go crazy about, oh, you heard wholesome things. Jake Garcia is way better than TBD. That's not what I said. I didn't say that. I'm answering the question.
Exactly. We all watched the spring game. I had the same evaluation, not having the same evaluation skills as the wholesome one, but I had the same evaluation about which quarterback looked better. And then I was just raising a hypothetical situation. You could put any two quarterbacks in those two spots. One's got the experience and has been a stud, but for a very short period of time. The other guy is equally as skilled, but has no experience. You know, what would you do, or how would you look at that situation if the number two guy outplayed the number one guy for an extended period of time in practice, if that happened? All right. Shoot. I lost my train of thought on the next thing I was going to bring up. Okay. Line play.
Ooh, which one? Because one of them
for the untrained eye during a spring game, if the offensive line blows open holes and the quarterbacks aren't touched, then that's all we see is, okay, the offensive line. And then the pessimistic fan would say, well, the defensive line sucks. The optimistic fan is going to say, well, our offensive line is just improved by leaps and bounds. Flip it the other way. The difficult determination for me is the whole sack business by just touching a quarterback. Quarterbacks get touched a zillion times during the course of a real game, and they are able to elude it and get away. So that's a difficult evaluation to make. But, you know, hardly anyone, if anyone, that's watching this video, either live or the replay, is going to have the evaluation skills that you do to measure that line play and what we saw.
Big smile on my face for a reason, man. Complete night and day shift for the first team offensive line. And this first team offensive line was missing the best offensive lineman on the team in Jalen Rivers, in my unhumble opinion. The first team All ACC offensive lineman from the University of Miami would be left guard Jalen Rivers. 6'6", 325 pounds, left tackle feet, right guard arms, NFL body, run block. I'm big on this now. I'm passionate about this. Very, very impressed. Where there's some times where Thomas Davis defeated Zion Nelson, where there's some times where Cyrus Moss came in and made some guys look silly, where there's some times where Lichtenstein made some plays as a 3 technique defensive tackle and a 2-eye technique. Absolutely. But as a whole, I would be remiss if I did not give the offensive line an A grade. I mean, they played very well. They've been playing very well all spring. But guess what, Mark? That's what we want. Jay, that's what I want. And we knew this was going to be true. They're getting the best coaching on the team. Okay. Both of their coaches are top 10 in the country at their job. You know, I don't know too many people that Coach Saban would trust his offensive line to. He's been trusting it to NFL guys since Coach Cristobal left. That's as high as the standard Coach Cristobal set for offensive line recruiting and offensive line play. Now, I'm not saying we're going to the natty, guys. You remember that? You know, I like to say that all the time. But on the offensive line, I was very, very impressed. Left tackle Zion Nelson, left guard Justice Uluwasu, at center Jakai Clark, at right guard we had Logan Sakapalu, transfer from Oregon, and at right tackle DJ Scaife. I've been very critical of DJ Scaife. I've been very critical about who he is, what he is. Is he a guard? Is he a center? Is he a tackle? Again, against our guys, he held down and played very, very well at that right tackle position. I was thoroughly satisfied, not necessarily like overly impressed because I expected them to make a big jump, man. It would be like if Kirby Smart started coaching your defensive backs. They're going to make a big jump. This is what he does. This is how he gets done. It's how he earned his defensive coordinator job. That's also how he earned his head coaching job. Eerily similar to Coach Cristobal. He made his bones as an all-conference offensive lineman himself. He also went on to be known as one of the better offensive line coaches in the country, which turned into him becoming the head coach of Oregon, that and a Pac-12 championship winning coach there, Rose Bowl champion, first round, second round, third round offensive lineman, filtering them in, and his running mate, his best friend, Coach Alex Mirabal. Okay, they had really nice steps up moving forward on the offensive line. I love it. I love what they brought to the table. Again, they gave up some sacks. Okay, they weren't, when it comes to the power play or the counter play. You know, they're trying out different techniques as to how to pull properly, how to pin and pry. What we mean by pin and pry is, for example, if there's a tight end next to a tackle, that tackle comes down and then the tight end goes down, then the guard loops around outside. That's pin and pry. They both come down and whoop right over the top. Or the tight end comes down and the tackle goes around him and takes. So the tight end would take the 3 technique and the tackle would loop around and knock out the 5 technique. And there's your lane right there, a wide B gap. Okay. These are all things that were blown up this past spring because our young men are not used to doing that. It's a whole new blocking scheme, a whole new ability. For the first time, you see Jakai Clark and the offensive line as a whole. It's not just the center pointing stuff out, talking to the QB. No, you see the entire offensive line pointing stuff out, communicating. Slant, he's going here, he's going here, he's coming around. All 5 guys are talking and communicating and being able to call plays and calling double and climb techniques. Okay, one of my favorite plays I saw was Logan Salopalu drive Leonard Taylor into the ground, pancake him. Of course, not a defensive lineman in me was pretty angry, but it was nice to see somebody give Leonard Taylor a real push. That's only going to make him better. It's only going to make him better to understand what it's going to require. Because in the ACC Coastal, as a 5-star, for the most part, you just kind of line up and do your thing and make some plays. No, you go up against a veteran offensive guard who couldn't get too many reps at Oregon, which is an offensive line factory right now. Couldn't get any reps. He comes down to Miami. He's getting reps, and he's showing you what it's like to play up against good comp. Okay, so we saw guys like Tafari Harvey, and Chance Williams, and Thomas Davis, and Leonard Taylor, get put on that behind and also make plays. So it was a nice back and forth. So from the offensive line perspective, only thing I wouldn't give them an A+ is the sacks and some TFLs that they messed up on some pulls.
Armando's chiming in. Appreciate the super chat, Armando. Asking, with Mitchell Agood and AKHEEM MESIDOR in play, how will that impact Leonard Taylor and Jafar Harvey?
I say for the positive. I think it's going to push them, but it's also going to give them an opportunity to be able to be pulled off the field and have guys on their level, if not a little bit above them right now, be able to come in right after them and kick butt also. But more importantly, it's going to give them great competition, not just as far as against the offensive line on their side, so that they can earn their spots. It'll be different if you're just that much head over heels better than the guy behind you. Is that going to force you to get much better? For some, yes. For most, no. The best thing that really gets them to go and get better and to keep fighting and to keep growing is, dude, I can't stop because this man behind me won't stop. He beats me to the weight room. He beats me to practices. He's had some better practices. We'll have inside run early on in the practice. I had so-so. He made every play. Coach is pulling me aside saying I got to give him more reps because he's earning them. What does that do? Again, to most, whatever. To some, it makes you kick it into high gear. And guess what that does? Now, instead of it growing like this and one stops and the other one keeps going farther, what that does is a consistent race all the way up. And even when he gets close, he keeps going. And now we're having growth across the board. And we're pushing each other and we're growing as a team in a fair way.
Third degree wants the whiteboard.
What does he want?
We don't have a whole lot of time here.
Oh, my bad. You know how I get, Mark. I'll be here till 10:30. Don't bother me.
Oh, wait a minute. You're going to be on at 10:30?
No, I said I would be here till 10:30.
You would be here till 10:30.
Just talk about the game.
Well, third degree, we will ask the wholesome one to do that next week.
Yeah, we got a long off season, so great job. I could do, schemes. Me and Mark are also going to go over some plays and things that they should line that up for you all this off season too, and breaking it down. So we're excited about that.
So if we're going to go with one more question, a couple of people wanted you to evaluate the cornerback play.
Much better. Much better. Now, in the sense of, yes, the wide receivers and the quarterbacks did have an off day, but they can have an off day and you still get cooked. There were times where people were beat, and that happens. There's certain players on this team that aren't the fastest. All right, you're going to get beat. How do you continue to play through it? DJ Ivy did pretty well. Al Blake Jr., really happy about him. Really happy about what he continues to bring to the table. I like him. I was very critical of him before, but I know now that he was just being used in the wrong way. Now he's out there. He's getting into the nickel. He's being able to come down. He's being more of a cover two corner than somebody that has to play man or deep thirds off where he doesn't really have the speed to run with everybody. And so it makes him look bad. Okay, run support, Al Blake Jr. Effort, tenacity, man coverage, zone coverage. So we're learning as to how to use our young men in the right way to make us look good, to make the coaches look good, and make that player look good. Corey Couch was still a little iffy. From what I saw, was very, very impressed with what was happening with Isaiah Dudson, the 6'2", 200-pounder. Okay, former athlete, not just a corner. He played both wide receiver and cornerback in high school, and was thought to be a wide receiver prospect for a while, but he wants to play corner. I like what he's bringing to the table. I'll even add in defensive back as far as cornerback. Cam Kitchens did not play. We don't know why, but he did not play. Okay, the main two safeties that played the majority of the entire game was James Williams and Avonte Williams. Still impressed with Avonte. With James, he is what he is, and we'll see what happens. I'm not wowed by any means. I thought I would be wowed by now. I like some of his play, of course, and I'm happy he's a Cane, yes, but he hasn't been that dynamic playmaker that we were waiting on. And again, some people would disagree. I'm the one making the highlight tape for him, so I'm not a hater. I'm just saying, as far as taking over, I've yet to see that from Big Game James, and I'm praying that we get the chance to see that.
Tim, we appreciate the contribution, and yes, that'll be more incentive for the wholesome one to bring out the whiteboard. Was Jacob Lichtenstein, was he as good as it appeared? He made a number of plays in the backfield. He had a batted pass that turned into a pick.
Yes. You know how they say, Mark, is never as good as you think, it's never as bad as you think? It's not first team All ACC, but it's definitely, and he's a unique prospect. He's a 6'5", but he isn't in 300 pounds. He's in like that 270, 280 range. But he's very country and stout, strong. And this is what I'm saying. If we were able to go get Lynn, the nose guard that just hit the portal from Alabama, who was a true zero technique, we're able to go out there and get a guy like that. And Liechtenstein doesn't have to take on double teams and not get stats. He can go over to the 3 and then on third downs mix into the 1 technique in the 2-eye and pass it downs and defeating guards. All right, but right now, him, Miller, and Allen Hayward are better gap sound 1 technique guys. A little disappointed in Leonard Taylor. Was expecting a lot more. Defensive end wise, the only one that stood out was Cyrus Moss. Jafari Harvey, I don't believe, played. And Chance Williams was a little iffy. Thomas Davis turned some heads. I still think we need a little bit more out there off the edge, but linebacker wise, still bad. That's why I'm hoping we get in this transfer portal and land these guys, because we don't need to be trucking Wesley Besaith out there as a true freshman. The days of doing that need to be, if he's, let's say, Justin Flo or Brian Urlacher or whatever, some just big time prospect, that's the only time we need freshmen starting that middle linebacker at Miami. The guys we got now, not too impressed with the front 7 play in the spring game. And more specifically, the linebacker position is still a big issue. Nose tackle is a big issue, in my opinion. Quarterback accuracy, wide receiver catching, fixable. No problem with that. Tight end play, not too bad. Offensive line play, very happy. Running back play, dynamic and different in a lot of guys, what we can bring to the table. Cornerback, pretty solid. Safety, solid. Linebacker, very, very poor. Very poor. So, again, Mark, amazing opportunity every Thursday to come here and be with you all and to be happy and talk about our Canes. And it's a blessing, again, to be able to be here and talk about these streams and talk about the spring game. I have a spring game film review dropping tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's about 45, 50 minutes. So just get some popcorn, sit back and relax, and let me show you some of the things that I saw and breaking it down the best way I know how. But it's always a blessing. And as always, okay.